As the cliche goes, April showers bring May flowers. But usually what comes after is the heat and dryness of summer. Hello again, Essay here. And before the hot weather of the holiday shows up, you should indulge in my new short story, The White Cat, a free exclusive on Substack. The links are down below in description. Join Margot Thompson, a beautiful stage actress and recent widow who finds salvation in the form of a white cat during a night of terror. While checking out my oddball thriller, remember that my Glitch series is still available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The links are down below in the description. While you'll find my peculiar story about a white pussy entertaining, that doesn't mean I'm out of ideas. I still have more stories coming down the pike, so as long as I don't run into any mishaps, you'll see those stories as well. Now let's get back to the video. Hello again, Essay here. What is immortality? Well, it depends who you ask, because it's something that's been floating around human culture for a very long time. How long? Well, the Mesopotamians, they wrote about immortality, but only in a religious sense of the word. And indeed, anyone who's ever read the Bible knows about how it speaks about when you die, and if you're not a naughty person, end up in the kingdom of heaven, and your soul basically lives forever. But then, of course, there are other people, like, say, Ponce de Leon, who supposedly was looking for the fountain of youth. Never found it. Tried. And then you have people who, back when I was a kid, was talking about cryogenics. And they were like setting up these facilities where they would like take their bodies and freeze them and wait for it. You ready? Sometimes they just take the head and freeze it. And you say, well, it'd be the point of freezing the head. Yeah, my thought exactly. Maybe you're gonna be a head in a pickle jar for eternity. That doesn't sound like doesn't sound like living. And then, of course, you have some of these tech giants nowadays talk about transhumanism, basically augmenting their bodies with parts as parts. Sort of like Steve Austin. Remember the $6 Million Man? Yeah, I remember that show. Of course, in the case of that show, Steve Austin wasn't trying to live forever. He just got, really chewed up after a space shuttle crash. And if you remember the TV show, you remember the Oscar character talking about, we could rebuild him, make him stronger, more powerful, faster. Yeah, a lot of these damn tech giants, they talk about that when they mean transhumanism. Basically replacing their worn out body parts with basically mechanical parts. Well, anyway, I'm going to show you a snippet of a video from Clayton Morris, where a bunch of characters, they want to go one step further. And even though they never used the word immortality, That's clear where they're going for. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Well, what if you could swap out your cancer-ridden body with a new body? What if you could swap out your Alzheimer's racked body with a new one? Keeping your consciousness, of course, keeping that totally intact. But yes, a totally new body. Your memories are all still there. It sounds like it's straight out of a science fiction novel, of course, but it's actually happening right now. It's real. I'm talking about the unveiling of the world's first head transplant system by a new startup company called Brain Bridge. Brain Bridge has been operating in stealth mode, keeping its revolutionary plans kind of under wraps until yesterday when the company's lead project manager dropped this trailer on Instagram.
Introducing Brain Bridge, the world's first revolutionary concept for a head transplant machine, which uses state-of-the-art robotics and artificial intelligence to conduct complete head and face transplantation procedures, ensuring smooth outcomes and faster recoveries. Because head transplants require high speed, precision, and efficiency, BrainBridge utilizes advanced high-speed, high-precision robotic systems to speed up the process, eliminate human error, prevent brain cell degradation, and ensure seamless compatibility. The head transplant procedure involves removing a person's entire head containing the brain from their current diseased body, then attaching it to the body of a healthy, young, brain-dead donor. Head transplants could provide individuals with severe medical conditions such as terminal cancer, paralysis, spinal cord injuries, or neurodegenerative diseases the opportunity to have a fully functional body while preserving their consciousness, memories, and cognitive abilities. The neurons are the longest-lasting functional cells in the human body, and according to our estimates, the brain is capable of lasting several hundred years, provided that the rest of the body remains young. The Brain Bridge concept involves the use of the integrated robotics platform comprised of the two autonomous surgical robots, designed to perform simultaneous surgeries on two bodies side by side within a single setup. The complete robotization of the process allows for the surgery to be performed in an environment with varying temperature and pressure. The procedure begins by preparing the donor and recipient bodies.
Yeah.
Get the heck out of here.
So I love someone in the chat says, Brain Bridge's stock ticker is BS. I mean, this is, yeah, okay. So we're talking about moving a patient's head onto a new healthy brain, onto a new healthy brain-dead donor body, basically. So let's break this what this means.
RoboCop. Something.
Yeah, I see RoboCop too. BrainBridge says their technology is designed to offer hope to patients suffering from conditions that are currently untreatable, such as stage 4 cancer, paralysis, again, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and they say, of course, these are devastating diagnoses that have no options right now for these patients. But BrainBridge aims to change all that by preserving a patient's consciousness, memories, cognitive abilities, while giving them an entirely new body. So how do they exactly plan to do this? I mean, they're going to use this like high-tech robotic system with real-time molecular level imaging. They say they're about 8 years away from pulling this off right now. Hashim Al-Ghali, the project lead at Bainbridge, said he is that every step of this concept is based on scientific research, extensive scientific research. And the reason they're coming out of stealth mode now is because they want to attract top talent in science and engineering to be a part of this. And they say they're about 8 years away from their first patient being ready to get his or her head swapped out.
You go first.
I mean, you think about Neuralink, right? That's now, Elon Musk tweeted the other day, they're now soliciting for their second patient right now. They have their first one that was successful. Yeah. Like now this is, people are saying this is Frankenstein.
It is.
And people are wondering if cryogenics has worked. Actually, that's a great question. Aren't there still like a number of famous individuals cryogenically being held for just such an occasion like this? Like, isn't Ted Williams or something like that? I know there's like a couple of rumors about
Walt
people
Disney.
that are Walt Disney that are cryogenically being held.
I do believe that the consensus is that was all just like hopes and dreams, and that there's really no recovering those brains.
Another one says infertile with turtle. I like this. Head says, you guys, they've probably been doing this successfully underground, or they wouldn't announce it. Other people saying it's really, really creepy. There's all sorts of ethical and philosophical questions here that need to be addressed, right? The concept of head transplants, of course, challenges the very notion of like what it means to be human, right? So what is your identity, right? Your soul, your consciousness, the essence of what a person is. What happens when you wake up? And yes, they're using CGI here. Like they're not showing actual human beings. This is like a rendering. This is a concept film that they're showing off here from this company. But, so what happens when you wake up in a completely different body? Right. You're in a completely different body.
Oh, I have ugly toes now. I don't like these toes.
Are you still you? Like your consciousness is there, but you wake up in an entirely different body. Is it still you?
And you think of like muscle memory, are you going to know how to, I don't know, the things that you know how to do, like chop tomatoes or whatever?
Right.
Like, will you suddenly know how to knit?
Right.
Yeah. Will you now be able to? Is it like the Matrix, where you've had all of these? Well, we know that actually from people who've received different organs and organ transplants, that they have suddenly had an affinity for playing cello music. We know that that's actually a documented case. You can actually study that, where people who've had different organs transplanted into their bodies, heart transplants, etc. They've actually suddenly had awareness or an affinity for certain things that they never had before, and it was because of the organ has a memory. So like, what does it mean? What about hubris too? Like you're playing God in this situation too, with human bodies and consciousness.
Right. Also, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say, like your genetics, your chromosomes are different from one part of your body to the other.
Yeah.
Like you'd literally have different genes in your head than you would in the rest of your body. Like, how would your body really deal with that? That's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're processing all of this. Go ahead. You were going to say.
I think spiritually this bothers me because my belief is that we come here with a purpose to experience something and overcome triumphs and try and learn in our lifetimes and have an experience. And I think that this is sort of cheating the human experience in a way, is saying like, I'm going to give myself an extra lifespan or something. Like that's the thing that really bothers me a lot.
A lot of doctors online are praising this. Dr. George, who has a pretty large following on X, says, the first head transplant system uses robotics and AI for head and face transplants. Science is amazing. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, right, if you're a doctor and this is what you're doing, you're trying to treat stage 4 cancer and you can't do it, and you've reached the end. Now we can take a donor body and just swap out your head on this donor body.
But what are the ethics of that? Is just saying that person, let's just give up on them, right? And we see how in Canada now, how easily now they give up on someone's lifespan. And so would someone who maybe had a possibility of regaining consciousness, like who makes that call? Is there going to be
like a maid? Like in Canada, like a made to bridge, like brain bridge pipeline, like just go right from the MAID program into the brain bridge program.
Yeah, that's terrifying, right?
Oh my God.
You're depressed, but here you go. Also, just the idea of like my head on somebody, the way you intimately know yourself seems a little bit strange. You're like, oh, what is this? So.
Well, it's like Bill Murray said. He's like, if I had breasts, I'd never leave the house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you put on the wrong body. You're proud of yourself for that one.
It's Bill Murray's joke. I'm giving credit where credit is due, but it's super creepy. I mean, I don't know. I just find it so stunning. And they're like, yeah, we're 8 years away from this because we're basically, and what's amazing is they're taking the human being out of the surgery process. It's fully AI, fully robotics.
Well, that probably is going to happen anyway.
As I was researching the story, I thought, my gosh, think about surgeons who, like, how long until surgeons are removed from the process, and or they're sort of just overseeing it, but they're really not involved in the robotic process anymore. Like, how close are we to that? To go from like the Model T factory assembly from 100 years ago all the way up to this now, we're changing heads.
Yeah,
our pets' heads are falling off. It's crazy. Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments below.
Okay, you saw that, right? Yeah. All I can think of is, well, I'm not a doctor or or a surgeon, but the very idea of cutting someone's head off and then sewing onto someone else's body, I mean, yeah, that sounds like nightmare fuel, something you expect to see from a horror film. In fact, anyone who's familiar with old Shelley's book, you know, Frankenstein, the new, was it the new Prometheus? Or was it the modern Prometheus? Yeah, that book? Yeah, that's what it sounds like. But of course, anyone remembers the book remembers that the old Victor Frankenstein, he was basically, in a way, trying to cheat death, but by taking his parts, and then sewing it all together and putting electricity through it and basically making a man come back to life. And when you think about it, if someone's going to like use some kind of weird surgery to cut your head off, I think at that point you're probably going to be dead. Even though there has been a few stories, I remember reading about them, I thought it was shocking, where they spoke about how back during the battle days of the Reign of Terror, during the French Revolution, that there were a few instances, not many, but a few, where people who had their heads cut off, you know, from the guillotine, there was a brief moment where it appeared that the heads, their eyes were still blinking and their lips were still moving, but only for like maybe a few seconds, and then that was it. So yeah. And I don't think much has changed since the damn 18th century. So yeah, the very idea that some damn mad scientist is going to cut your head off and say, yeah, we're going to sew your head onto another body and everything should work out just fine. Yeah, it does sound like Mary Shelley's book. And of course, if you remember in the video, they talked about, oh, if you're suffering from Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, just cut your head off. Excuse me, last time I checked, Parkinson's as well as Alzheimer's is a disease that affects the brain. And therefore, cutting off your head and sticking it on another body is probably not going to solve that problem. Just saying. So then you say, are these people sincere? Or are they just a bunch of wackadoodles? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, if I find it bizarre to say the least. I mean, yeah, I guess when you consider the context, if you're not a religious person, I guess you would be frightened by death. You know, the very idea of, as Raymond Chandler calls it, the big sleep. And of course, anyone remembers that book. I don't know how to explain it to you. But yeah. You know, basically breathing your last, and then you end up in a box 6 feet under, or worse, they stick you in a box and stick you to the crematorium and turn you to ash, and then they stick you in a little vase for eternity. Or someone might take you and take your ashes and throw it over the damn railing at the damn Disneyland. Yeah, someone actually tried that and got in trouble. No joke. I was surprised when I heard that story. I said, wait, your mother died and she wanted her ashes spread at Disneyland? I think they don't allow that kind of shit at Disneyland. Just saying. Yeah, but the very idea like that probably scares the hell out of a lot of people. And therefore, I guess if you're looking for escape hatch, I guess you would go for it. Indeed, I remember the preamble scene to first Planet of the Apes film. No, the original one, Charlton Heston. And I remember how he was on board his spaceship and how he was talking about traveling through space. And and how it's been, I think he said it was like 800 years since he left Earth, and yet he hasn't aged hardly at all. And he was talking into his microphone, and he said that the people who are hearing my message now are not the same people who sent me out into space. And hopefully you are a new breed of men, hopefully a better one. And of course, if you remember that film, when he finally landed, and they found out that he and his two homies had been away from Earth like 2,000 years. And I remember he was chiding his co-pilot, Landon. He told him that, I'm trying to remember how he said it, because I always liked that scene in the film where he said that everything and everyone you ever knew is dead and gone, all dust. And I remember that, and I said, yeah, traveling through space, probably at light speed, yeah. According to Einstein, he wrote about that. I think he called it time delineation, where in theory, and of course, I remember, it wasn't Isaac Asimov, it was the other fella, Carl Sagan. He mentioned it too. He said that, when you're traveling at light speed, time delineation occurs. And if you had a clock on board with you, traveling at light speed, and a clock you left back on Earth, and then you return back to Earth, the clock that you're carrying, even though as far as you're concerned it's running normally, the time is different. And indeed, time had slowed down for you and the clock, but the clock you left on Earth was running normally. And I'm thinking, yeah, and I'm pretty certain some of these damn tech giants, if they thought they could somehow move their bodies at light speed, they probably would do it. And just like Charlton Heston's character in Planet of the Apes, they would live for a couple of thousand years, maybe even longer. But still, the whole damn idea is just freakish to me. And indeed, when you get right down to it, even if that thing is successful, I mean, how would it be like to walk around with your head attached to someone else's body? I mean, because we all know our bodies for the most part. The hairs, or fingers, or toes, belly buttons. I mean, the very idea that you could replace your head and put on someone else's body and then go on through the rest of your life with a different body, it's just freakish, bizarre. And indeed, I remember a couple of horror films I remember seeing back when I was a kid. Like, I think it was I think one was called Diary of a Madman. No, I think it was called Hands of the Murderer, where it was Boris Karloff. Supposedly he suffered an accident, and then supposedly he lost his hand, but then he had a new hand that was sewn on to replace the hand that he lost. But then the hand started acting weird, and then he found out the truth. The hand belonged to a guy who had died in prison for murder. And because he had that weird hand, he started having memories of the guy who used to own it. And then he started having phantasms about wanting to go out and kill people. Yeah, that movie was kind of weird. And then I remember this film I saw with Rock Hudson that was equally bizarre. came out, I think it was sometime in the middle 1960s. It was called Seconds, like minutes and seconds. And it was about a guy who supposedly was unhappy with his life, some old dude. And then he was given a chance to have a new life in a new body. And he said, okay, I'll go for it. And he did. And he got a new body, and he got a new identity and everything. But then he was told one caveat. Whatever you do, you cannot contact anyone from your previous life. At all. Ever. And I'm not going to tell you how the film ended, but let's just say things didn't work out well for Rock Hudson in the film. Nope. Certainly didn't. But yeah. Some of these people who are planning this Frankenstein scheme, personally, I don't think it's going to work out. But you know what? History is full of examples of people always trying to find the secret sauce. That one thing that will allow you to live forever. Some people try religion, some people use the sciences, and but people keep trying. I will give them that. You have people out there who are pretty hell-bent and determined to find a way to escape death. But then again, I always like what Shakespeare said about the whole idea. Said that death was the undiscovered country that no man ever returns from. That's probably true. Now, of course, some of you probably mentioned that character from the Bible, Jesus. Yeah, well, what can you say? He was the Son of God. And I guess if you're the Son of God, I guess you get certain perks that ordinary people don't get. So there you go. Oh, that's all I gotta say about this crazy scheme for extending people's lives through surgery and other crazy whacked out stuff. And that's my opinion.